Release it. Let's light this candle, huh? I mean, sure, I'll lose everything, but then I'll have nothing to lose.
Well, what if we share a different destiny?
Something
A little more scorched earth.
no God. The only man in the sky is me.
I'll fucking suck your dick!
There's this phenomenon within TV land that the first season is the most important season. It's when everyone involved is fully determined to get the show into the public eye. The actors are on their fifth rehearsal of one key syllable, the writers are polishing every word, and the showrunners making sure the ship stays afloat. But as soon as they get what they want, a second season, it changes. Something about the vibe or the tone gets cheaper, lazier, and feels like it's chasing the high it left. Most of the time, the simple answer is the writers pitched a great first season to the studio, and they truly did not think ahead. It might add a teaser at the end to set up a second season, but besides that, nothing else is planned. That's how I feel about The Boys. It had a lot going for it initially, but I feel like each season gets further and further away from the original point of the show. Their writing went from key plot points where each character decision matters to almost CW soap opera levels of unnecessary drama and forced tension. I promised myself I wouldn't watch the final season if I wasn't going to make a video about it. I was satisfied. Watching the clips on Twitter, sitting here with some hot cocoa, glad that the kids have realized this show was a waste of time. But with how busy I've been with my videography work, I thought it'd be a healthy creative outlet to blow the dust off this essay I had ready since season 4. So this video will be what I wrote about 2 years ago, updated, and a whole segment for season 5, because it could be a whole hour-long video on its own. Not gonna lie, they could probably kill Hughie off. It's okay. If the writers are coming up with some grade A bullshit to keep him in the show, I'd rather just see him off. It'd be sad because I love me some Hughie, and I think Jack Quaid himself is cool. I miss when Hughie was entirely crucial. That was when the audience lived through Hughie as the straight man role, who would react normally to this chaotic and sinister world. He served as a protege, the new kid on the block with fresh ideas and the knowledge of soups that could help the rest of the team. But since that point, it feels like he's just kind of doing his own thing, serving as filler arcs. I'm not saying every single thread needs to be important or progress the story, but if you take out Hughie's plot lines in seasons 2 through 5, 90% of the core story wouldn't change. One of the major problems in this show is per season, they'll spin a wheel and whatever it lands on is that character's arc for the season. Starlight's arc in season 4 is discovering she used to be mean and can't stop beating the shit out of people. It's ridiculous. Coming up with a problem or new internal conflict per season isn't the problem here. It's the lack of connection that is the problem. Arcs need to be built upon past behavior from the character. It has to have some sort of domino effect, and there are rarely any in this show. And I believe that is essential when writing a character-driven drama. It doesn't have to happen all the time. Butcher is Butcher, there's no changing him. But Hughie is the character this most applies to. He is still equally as developmentally stagnant as the rest of the bunch, but his character is screaming for an inkling of change. To compare, take a character like Jesse Pinkman. When you watch the first 2 seasons of Breaking Bad, his character is very loud, both metaphorically and literally.
Man, not my house!
He wears bright and baggy clothes, speaks with an edge, and is relatively immature. But the 2 most important qualities Jesse has towards a kind of plot like this is that he has no real adult experience, and he's never applied himself. Because of those traits, it automatically adds a shade to his overall arc, which is maturing. We see how this criminal lifestyle leads him to grow better at the profession, while leading to nothing but pain and depression as he goes deeper into it, going through truly tragic things. His regrets are literally scarred on him for the rest of his life by the end of the story. You can't have El Camino Jesse without every single thing he went through in Breaking Bad. The same can't be said about Hughie. I guarantee you could show me the first 2 episodes of The Boys, then immediately cut to season 4 Hughie, and they'd be the exact same. The thing is, they have tried to give Hughie a maturing arc. It's just been so misplaced. It boggles my mind that the writers are scratching their heads wondering what to do with Hughie, when season 1 was a fantastic blueprint on where to take him. But nah, they gotta spin the wheel of moral conundrum. Season 2 Hughie isn't really much to talk about. The whole depressed from this lifestyle arc should have happened deeper into the show. It's almost like they played their cards too early with this one. But in the beginning of season 3, Hughie now has an office job in an anti-soup government sector, and he's technically Butcher's boss, which sounds interesting, but then you realize that dynamic between Butcher and Hughie happens for 1 episode, and then it goes right back to normal, except this time, Hughie's having a Toxic masculinity arc! Hell yeah, baby! At this time, he feels powerless when he keeps getting saved by Starlight, which could have been interesting if it didn't come out of nowhere.
You always have to be the strong one. You always have to be so much stronger than me.
You said that it didn't bother you.
I know, but it does.
This scene is so funny because it's the writers acknowledging that they are contradicting themselves.
Does it bother you that I could whip your ass in bowling and in everything and bench press you?
Oh my god, is that a threat or a promise?
But even with that self-awareness, they cannot make this arc make sense for the character. It's also funny to think about how the writers just forgot about when Hughie saved Annie and her mother in the heart of Vought Tower by himself last season. But sure, Hughie has never saved Annie, and hey, I really don't mind recontextualizing a scene for added depth or history, but in order to bring up a past moment, it actually has to be adding or weathering to a character's journey. It doesn't work if they just reset at the end of the season. The Boys writers actually subvert those expectations by having this little writing tool called making it up as you go along, with no thought towards these characters' dynamic or how it'll be impacted in a future tense. This forced infighting was only created for the sake of conflict. Hughie will only have these emotions exclusively live in this season.
But it does.
In season 4, his main arc was his dad dying in the hospital. Hughie realized there's a shot of his dad surviving, but that means he has to give him Compound V. Hughie is at something of a crossroads. He could accept his dad's death, or he could live much longer at the risk of being turned into a monster. This is where I want to talk about moral dilemmas. We'll pull up another example from Breaking Bad that's on par with Hughie's predicament. In the climax of season 4, Gus Fring and Walter White have been having a chess game to see who will kill the other to control the entire meth trade. There's a point where Jesse's loyalty has naturally swayed to Gus, but still does not allow the green light to kill Walt. So Gus simply fires Walt. He doubles down on threatening Walt's entire family, and he says he will be killing his DEA agent brother-in-law Hank Schrader. Walt returns home, frantically trying to find all of his money so he can start a new life with his family by meeting some sort of black market witness protection connect. But Walter's wife Skylar enters, saying she had to give all their money away in order to stay out of the watch of the IRS. Which she really did have to do. Don't worry, I got you, Skylar. Walter and Skylar's two paths have clashed into each other. Of course, from a writer's perspective, they wanted to take out that exit strategy for Walt because it would have been boring. But the collision of these two plot points leading to this moment was flawless. Now Walt is losing his mind over this wild card placed in his hand. This is a huge ultimatum for Walt. Option A, he accepts his termination, he lets Hank die, he can never cook meth again, and on top of all of that, he will be living in crippling paranoia that enough time has passed for Jesse to give Gus the green light, and he ends up in a ditch somewhere. Or option B. He chooses option B, and he sticks to it. No half measures here. What's similar about this moral dilemma to Hughie's is that they're both an act of self-sacrifice, understanding what the implications will do to your soul, but actively putting it aside to save another. So here's what happens with Hughie's arc. He spends a couple of episodes tracking down Compound V, even killing for his father. It's a gamble having him take the Compound V and be left more or less unchanged. But Hughie does not care. He refuses his dad to die no matter what shape he takes. He's finally at the hospital, staring at his dying dad with the Compound V in his hands, ready to go. But he can't do it. He realizes he's just delaying the inevitable, and it's better to have his dad die as the man he knew and loved. There's a moment of grief and peace Hughie reaches. And then, his mom, who is only introduced this season, injects the Compound V into the dad when he's not looking, absolutely removing any significance Hughie had towards this choice. Sure, technically nothing changed from Hughie's end. He didn't actually do it. He still had that choice. But having someone else just make the decision without Hughie's knowledge is the equivalent to Walt building a bomb, planting the bomb, saying to himself, I can't do this. This is wrong. And then Walt's kid brother Lil Walt, who they never mentioned before this season, grabs the detonator and does it anyway. It's so much build up to this fork in the road that was entirely personalized for this character, and it's stripped away by someone else. It wasn't her fight. It wasn't her choice. It wasn't her arc. This was all for Hughie, and it just felt like the writers wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They wanted his dad to take the Compound V so that they could have him go on a silly Alzheimer's rampage, but leave none of the actual moral weight onto Hughie, because this whole situation is too much change, clearly. Too big of a scar that would change Hughie from the default. I know what some of you are going to say, but Hughie ends up killing his dad. dad, so there's some consequences right there. I'm not a monster. Of course I have empathy for his dad dying, but I end up feeling nothing because the characters feel nothing. They have no agency in their own story. They serve as reactionary devices to the chaotic plot, and that's it. This is the kind of story beat where Hughie should change as a person. What they end up doing is one scene acknowledging he's still sad his dad is dead, then quickly moving on to never being brought up again, and then goes on to get raped not once, but twice, and also never brings it up again. Hughie's the moral normal guy who freaks out in any moment of danger. People liked it in the first season, so why would they change it for any reason ever?
Anything but the real, anything but the real, you devil, you.
People like to talk about the complexities of Homelander, but it's all very surface level stuff. The story of Homelander is that he was raised by the company Vought, which treated him like a lab rat. They taught him classic American propaganda to get him prepped to be America's mascot. While growing up, he would accidentally kill people and the staff would reassure him everything is okay. So from a young age, he was taught there are no repercussions from killing, which enabled using his powers for wrongdoing. Eventually, he would make his debut as the Homelander, where he would spend many years being the lapdog to his boss Madison Stillwell. That is his entire backstory. He's a psychopath brimming with the confidence that he could do whatever he wants, but the insecurity that everyone will hate him for it, which is a very cool concept. But for a while in the show, Homelander has turned into this one-trick pony of a pissy man-child in every scene he's in, which has resulted in him becoming such a boring character to follow. But what would make me tolerate it was that interesting concept of his need to be accepted and loved. Then in season 4,
your need for approval and for love, Vought brought in the best psychologists in the world. We developed the protocol to carefully engineer that need so that you would be obedient.
to me, this ruins Homelander. All those scenes establishing Homelander's desire for praise are now ruined because I'll just think about how these traits are from the writers playing make-believe like kindergartners. I just don't know what they're trying to do anymore. They added a needless plot contrivance that retcons the backstory we all liked, by the way, to explain something that already made sense. Each season, he keeps getting worse and worse. I mean, season 5 is by far the most ridiculous we've seen Homelander. And not in a funny way. They've really just scraped the fucking jar with his character. We don't need him becoming more dumb, becoming more pathetic, becoming more alt-right for us to properly hate him. We already hated him from the jump. He was just an interesting character played by a good actor. That's all we needed, but they had to fuck that up. I'm just overall disappointed with what they've done to him because he easily could have ended up as one of the greatest villains ever. If the writers just put down the New York Times and Twitter's trending tab, they wouldn't have made him a caricature of himself. There's a lot of controversy over Frenchie in the 4th season, and it's because he kisses boys on the mouth. And the controversy over Frenchie in the 5th season is... But for season 4, Frenchie and Colin's relationship was really boring to watch. It was trying to be this moral drama of love and guilt and self-hatred, but it failed to do so because of the repetitive nature of their dynamic. It was explained when Frenchie was a paid assassin, he killed Colin's family. So every scene is Frenchie flirting with Colin and then Psycho staring in the distance that would pair well with a cheesy Spanish guitar strum. All this stuff just comes out of nowhere for Frenchie, and this arc is exactly what I mean by soap opera writing. Until Frenchie actually went to the police and confessed to being a murderer. Now it makes sense that they were using Colin as the metaphorical embodiment of everyone Frenchie has murdered. His inner turmoil is so strong he can't live with himself. He's not looking for forgiveness, he's looking for punishment. This looks like a farewell to Frenchie.
Bonjour. How the fuck did you get out?
I had Mallory pull a few strings.
Just to be clear, this was against my will.
Oh, so everything's fine. For a show that loves to market itself as ambitious and dark, it sure loves to pussy out when it comes to any real risk with their characters. I mean, come on, how can you not get pissed off when they do this shit? What's the point of getting emotionally invested in any of these characters or watching them go through some real pain just for it to be reversed at the drop of a hat? This show is such a waste of time. This is filler. These writers have no fucking clue what to do with this show, so they've resulted in coming up with these padded for runtime storylines. These characters change as much as SpongeBob. I understand Frenchie or MM are not the main point of the show. They're side characters, but that doesn't mean that their storylines shouldn't matter at all. Hell, even Marie had her important moments. I got a message to the writers if they're somehow watching this. If you don't think you can write 8 episodes worth of story with 6 or more characters with 5 seasons worth of relationships, then you should have finished the show earlier. Make it more compact. You want to know why people like the last last 10 minutes of the season 4 finale, it's because shit was actually happening. The plot was progressing. You guys have millions of people watching your show, all the resources to make a great piece of television, but plain out, you guys just half-assed it. Forget about legacy, forget about transcending this for future generations. It's already outdated half a day of its release. You can't convince me that they do these lazy arcs because this show is just for fun. There's plenty of moments throughout this show where they want us to take it seriously. The real reason this is written poorly is because these writers are hacks.
Do it.
This segment will be short, but I have to put a spotlight under it. Seasons 1 through 3 Butcher was totally fine, nothing out of the ordinary. But season 4 was the most confusing journey I ever saw for Butcher. They started off by firing Butcher from the boys, and making a whole scene a few episodes later dedicated to Butcher being rehired onto the team, to then leaving again as if he was never rehired. Butcher this season is dying from cancer caused by the Temp V they came up with last season. So it's a pretty good connection, I'll give it props. But what I'm not a fan of is how desperate the writers were at destroying Butcher's character by randomly making up that he cheated on Becca.
If your love was so perfect and pure, then why'd you fuck that waitress?
To me, the Becca line when it comes to Butcher is off limits. Butcher will betray anyone if they stand in his way. Butcher will blackmail, kill, and destroy anything in his path if it means he's one step closer to killing Homelander. But Becca, being the only good thing in his life, makes his character much more interesting than this berserker carnage seeker. It showed that Butcher is a good man somewhere deep down. All these awful things are symbolic to how much love he had for Becca, but also how Becca's death was an excuse for his bloodlust. It's such a slam dunk to leave that whole arc alone because they got lucky that Butcher and Becca were a really sweet and tragic love story. But it's just ruined now by, once again, the writers making up new shit every season. The writing has gotten so all over the place to the point where all the fans just remove this fact from the canon because they disagree with it so much. Besides that pretty big fatal flaw, the rest of the arc was pretty good. I liked the death of Billy and the rise of Butcher. I was really looking forward to villain Butcher being his own unit in the final season. Until the writers felt differently. I go into it more in the season 5 section of this video, but wow, Butcher was straight up 0% different to how he was before season 5. His death was one of the most bland deaths in the show, period. Even Butcher finally killing Homelander felt bland and loveless. Just because you guys add heaven lights doesn't mean these deaths are beautiful. I get he was baiting Hughie to kill him so he could finally be stopped, but his death felt very odd considering he didn't go full villain mode this season at all. This scene just felt so clunky and paint by numbers. It felt more like they added Butcher's death just out of pure obligation to end his story. I really did think that deal with the devil in the last season was going to be the perfect segue to him trying to kill all Soups and the boys' team in the progress. But his plan in the show was to kill maybe 200 Soups in Vought Tower, if that, in all 100% unbiased honesty. His ending didn't move me at all.
This is your award-winning unbiased news program.
Comedy is subjective, but if this show is the funniest thing you've seen, I'm going to assume you've got a Punisher logo somewhere on your car and think using the middle finger is really badass. The only kind of jokes they do is gross out shock comedy potty humor. It's really raunchy, vulgar, and gross. It's not the good kind of gross either. It's bad gross. It's Will Ferrell, Sherlock Holmes type of gross. I get that they somewhat base all this raunchy stuff on the very raunchy comic, but it comes at a point where I can't help but think it's bad lazy jokes. I'll give the boys some credit. It's not terrible every single time. Most things with the deep are actually pretty funny.
The ancient Taoists believed that perennium sunning stopped chi, life force, from leaving the body.
But once you realize it's the same joke every single time, it gets stale pretty quickly.
Oh, wow. Your skin is so oily, like hugging a McRib. It smells in here.
You're right. It smells like an Abercrombie got fucked by a 7-Eleven while Arby's jerked off in the corner.
You need a shower. You smell like a Wingstop bathroom.
I bet Homelander has a weird dick.
The other joke they've been telling has to do with their stunning political commentary. Woo! I know I'm not alone in this. The political parody The Boys has been doing is just bad. It's very stupid writing without even thinking about subtlety.
Starlight works with Oprah and Tom Hanks to set up a satanic home delivery service. A combo gets you a child they forced to have trans surgery, and a soda gets you a shot of adrenochrome.
The Vernon family started out as slave catchers. You know, I bet A-Train here would have given my great-great-granddaddy a run for his money.
Oh?
Huh? But we would have caught you.
It's the woke principal and his husband Chad, or could be your uncle who says soups are bad.
When I'm watching a movie, I would appreciate it if a character came out and said, "Hello, I'm evil." Well, that would help me. They don't do that enough.
I can understand having Homelander be a parody of current politics in certain ways, but when they have him calling people libtards, I'm just like, okay, what are we doing? That being said, I do love political-centric stories, like Succession, The Wire, Veep, and as corny as they may be, The Newsroom and The West Wing. I've watched all those stories constantly centered around politics, and it does not hold any point of exhaustion that The Boys makes me have. It gets to a point where I feel like I signed up to watch a show I didn't intend to watch. I understand the politics more reflect how pandering and stupid Homelander is, but here's two problems. One, this was a distraction thrown at us from the writers not having enough material to utilize a whole season's worth of story. And two, this isn't what Homelander would do. He's smarter than this. Whether I agree with their sentiments or not on the Republican Party, making Homelander a Trump allegory fucking sucks. And it doesn't matter how many political opinions they put into their show. I'm never gonna take it seriously while they are owned by the most pro-establishment corporate man on the fucking planet. You guys are not anti-establishment. You are BuzzFeed writers. Stay in your lane. If you're a Republican, just because you're being made fun of doesn't mean you have a valid reason to go on a disrespectful Facebook tirade saying the boys have gone woke. And if you're a Democrat, it doesn't inherently mean you have to find this stuff funny just because they're making fun of the other team, or else you're just as bad as them when they make stupid, lazy commentary about you. Ultimately, their parody of Republicans should have been maybe an episode, not a major aspect of the show, especially since I don't trust Eric Kripke to have a good sense of judgment to make statements like this. Including politics and topical moments into your show doesn't automatically mean you deserve the title of having nuance and clever commentary. You actually have to earn those.
The Tech Night plumbs a whole new pit of darkness with its soundtrack of Nirvana hits and a 12-minute sequence that's entirely pitch black.
That being said, shows are absolutely allowed to push opinions, but it shouldn't be used as a writing flashbang to distract the audience that you ran out of ideas. One of the reasons The Boys never has excitement anymore is their very quick solution towards a problem. I remember in the second episode of the show where they spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to kill the superhero Translucent. It was a lot of fun to follow. It wasn't mind-blowing super creative stuff, but it felt fun trying to figure out a way to kill what seemed like an unkillable being. I do understand why they can't always do those kinds of scenes with every single suit they come across. It would slow down the series a lot, but it would have been nice to see it a few more times. I mean, by their logic, should we have seen Walt cook meth only once? It added some layers towards how the powers actually work, how the boys think differently from everyone else, and it told the audience to use their heads. The only time they mentioned their method of killing Supes since that point was in season 4, and that was brought up to specifically say they can't kill this character, which was an excuse because they wanted the Deep alive for the final season. All just to drag out his appearance so his death could be in the finale for padded stats to the final episode kill count of important characters. It sucks all the tension out like a vacuum knowing that these characters are overpowered and somehow weak enough to have plot armor. Besides the deaths, their solution towards every single situation is just running away, and it works out a shocking amount of times. I am tired of them just being able to walk away from the supposed strongest and most versatile superhero in the world so many times, especially this season when he isn't even holding back anymore and actually wholeheartedly wants to kill them. Before this season, there was always a reason for Homelander not to kill the boys, but now they are sacrificing Homelander as this big threat, sacrificing the intelligence and world building they established, and absolutely insulted the viewer's intelligence as well. Just the fact that this scene happened and Homelander didn't kill all of them is downright crazy. What's the point of having this show even even exist if you're not going to have tension with the main villain whose whole appeal is potentially dying at any moment if you're in a room with him. That's when I realized the writers are more bark than bite when it comes to Homelander. In scenes like that, or in legitimate fight scenes where he isn't holding back, he gets his ass kicked. Really think about this. 25% of this show is hyping up what Homelander would do if he took off the chains, and it's been a letdown every time. You would think by this point in the show, you can confidently say that these characters have changed or grown, but these characters haven't. In fact, they are at most times stagnant and other times reduced. Them constantly returning to their default personality by the end of each season makes me see right through the writers. Each new MacGuffin they add each season isn't story development, it's simulated adventures. They throw enough quirky shit at you to make you feel like this is one hell of a bumpy ride, but it all ends at the same place. It's the definition of jingling keys. Is it extreme to say it shares more qualities with CW's The Flash than it does any other legitimate dramas? I don't think so.
Absolute zero.
This season was disappointing, and that finale, I felt nothing. The first thing to get started with is the elephant in the room, which is the VCU's very own Vought Rising. You know, this is pretty case in point to what I was saying earlier. Kripke does not care about his own story, so he's mentally moving on by adding these completely new quests and characters each season. And when he does give a new quest to the already established characters, it feels like such a hard pivot to the point where we as the audience can't help but feel alienated to the character because it's like we don't know them anymore. I find it hilarious that Kripke is letting everyone know for Vought Rising that he won't be begging sympathy with Stormfront because she's a Nazi, but he'll be begging for sympathy with the racist, bully, piece of shit with daddy issues from season 3, then a forced recontextualization purely for marketing purposes to fall in love with a Nazi. This all reminds me of that one episode of The Office called The Farm, where they were essentially teeing up a spin-off show centered around Dwight and his quirky family. It wasn't bad for The Office to try to do. They served it up on a plate, showed it to the audience, and everyone said respectfully, no thanks. And then they carried on through the rest of the season. But The Boys is just bombarding us with Vought Rising. It's downright insulting to everyone who has been waiting for the final season for years to watch Kripke spend more time on his Vought Rising and Supernatural dolls than the characters that have been paying his bills for the past 7 years. You know what's hilarious about all this setup for Vought Rising? Is that these one-note logline versions of the characters are going to be totally different if Vought Rising ever reaches its completed series finale. Because Kripke doesn't know how to keep his story structured. Mark my words, by the end of that stupid fucking spinoff, it's going to destroy the final season of The Boys in terms of canon. Because clearly, they are willing to completely change everything to fit their narrative.
When you hate me, I love her more. And this is what she would want. I founded it in 52. Me and this other soup, Liberty. Man, was she a firecracker.
I feel like it doesn't take a genius writer to say, don't center the plot around characters we have never met. Look at all the characters in this field, all of their shared stories, the pettiness, the spite, the hatred, and love these characters share, and their instinct is to center it around characters we've never met. They can't even keep the record straight between one episode. In the season 5 premiere, Butcher's whole goal in that episode is to save and recruit Frenchie, specifically to finish the virus that was already established to work last season, but sure, he needs Frenchie to finish it. Then the very next episode, when they get to Butcher's lab, all of a sudden the virus is already complete. So naturally the audience is thinking, if the job is already done, why does Butcher need Frenchie? Well, they don't even bring it up. There wasn't a moment where Butcher asks Frenchie to do anything specifically. He just says, it's finished, let's test it. Think about that season 4 finale again. How else was Butcher directly saying to the rest of the group, I'm going my own way and don't try to stop me? Just for them to get back together again. Time and time again, Kripke takes one step forward in his finales just to take 3 steps back at the beginning of each season. I mean, seriously, he sacrificed so much to get this specific outcome for the final season. The virus being set up as the soup killer just to magically not have any effect on the brand new variant of V1 soups. Ryan being set up as this metaphorical future of the boys. Godhood versus manhood in his 2 father figures. But what happened? He got put in the ground, and now his fate is entirely irrelevant because they made Homelander immortal, so now Ryan's fate isn't even in the equation. The Flight 37 tapes that were once so important that it cooled off Homelander from killing everyone, Just call it AI made by the dumb liberals. And they made it actually go away at the drop of a hat. Really think about that. They sacrificed an incredibly powerful and dark thing in Homelander's past, something that would have made his PR ratings go into the toilet and seen as the villain he truly is. But they just said it was AI because it's topical. You are not serious people, Kripke. God, I'm breathing so fucking heavy. Even the little plot beats are all over the place, like Black Noir 2's death. I actually think that's the most beautifully put death in the show. Last season, he was able to tank a goddamn sentry gun, but in this world of endless creativity with superpowers, the best thing the writers could have come up with was being stabbed to death like any Joe Schmo in the world could die from. It feels like they're just killing people because it's the final season. They're just checking off boxes with no love. Deep killing Black Noir was not impactful, nor does it carry any moral weight onto the Deep. Same thing with Frenchie's death. As I was saying before, all this hype of Homelander taking off the gloves puts a huge clog down the show's drain. I know they wanted to send Frenchie off as beautifully as they could, but once again, it sacrifices Homelander's brutality. Homelander will show brutality to random people. Homelander will say that he will do unspeakable things to the boys.
I'm gonna fillet you alive. You, Starlight, all the non-believers. You're all gonna fucking drown in your own blood.
But the first one he killed, he just gave a little shot to his tummy off screen. It all feels so pointless. Their techniques to portraying the state of Homelander's America is vaguely mentioning raids, riots, internment camps, and name dropping a bunch of random celebrities they arrested. This world should go full-blown dystopia, but it's weirdly calm. It's very frustrating.
Sir.
Ban nut milk.
Ryan, the Virus, Flight 37, Soldier Boy, Homelander taking over America, Butcher being set up as a villain. All of that was addressed in this season to simply say, we addressed it, just to immediately throw it into the trash can for the sake of defying expectations. As if we all don't know what the exact outcome was going to be. And honestly, they crippled Homelander to the point where I have to agree. The V1 arc was by far the biggest waste of time. Basic Compound V Homelander and V1 Super Juiced Homelander are quite literally the exact same. Watching the finale, you wouldn't even be able to tell that the V1 arc even happened. I sincerely think Homelander becoming president should have been happening since the first episode of the season, so we could explore his Iron Fist. He said in season 3 he'd prefer love, but fear would do just fine. But instead, they have him try to convince America he's Jesus in the penultimate episode. I felt like there was only one good ending to this show. Butcher's plan succeeds, killing all Supes, and Hughie kills Butcher for not only the countless murder he committed through the virus, but because he killed Starlight in the process. I feel like it would have been a full circle moment. Butcher killing Annie would have made him the exact same monster as Homelander and the rest of the Supes. Homelander's death was always going to be the climax of the whole story, but it was always truly about Butcher and Hughie. But apparently to Kripke,
it was impossible to tick every box and tie up every little storyline. I mean, just try making everybody happy. You can't do it.
To be honest, I don't know how I'm feeling inside. I don't know if I get
the show and the audience are in a bubble, ultimately. The audience applauds the show for being original and creative, but it's because they haven't seen much else. It's like thinking Peter Piper Pizza is the epitome of Italian food, but having never been to a real authentic Italian joint. All the tropes and the plots and the concepts are stuff I have seen before, and not just seen before, but stuff that has been done better before. The writers are trapped in this delusion of saying this show is one thing while delivering another. They say these characters are important, but are steamrolled by whatever the fresh new character arc Kripke gets a hard-on for. The first season was very clear on it being a war between the pampered, egocentric celebrity versus the honest, working, moral person, but it got blinded by an audience who loved comparing their scenes to real-world examples. So then they started adding more parodies, more scenes designed to be upvoted on Reddit. With a craving of digital applause, they lost the point of the show. Forget about them being freedom fighters, let's make them government agents and make all the superheroes bumbling buffoons. Why? I don't know, it'd be funny. And I swear to God, if any of you say, bro, it's meant to be funny, so just have fun, I'm gonna kill you. Because in my spare time, I watch so many different relaxed comedies. The whole point watching these shows is to have fun, but that doesn't mean any actual criticism gets shoved away. If this show was more like Kripke's previous show, Supernatural, then I wouldn't have anything to say. This video wouldn't exist, because that show's meant to be fun episodic adventures. But The Boys wants to be taken seriously, wants to enter the arena and show its chest, saying, I'm good television. Just have fun, fuck Fuck you. Show me where the fun is.
Look, I want everyone to love it. Not fun to go online and have like 1,000 comments in a row saying, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck. Your job is to get an emotional reaction out of people. If people love it, if people hate it, as long as they're feeling emotion, then I've done my job.
Look, Eric, let me get real with you, babe. It's already too late. You were making fun of Marvel for having meaningless spin-offs and just being overall soulless movies on top of that. Look at you now. You guys made Gen V, which was a desperate move to target a teenage demographic. Oh my god, he's in fucking everything! You're making Vought Rising, which sounds pointless, especially since you guys spent an entire season showing Soldier Boy's backstory that takes place 30 years after Vought Rising. What kind of epic conclusion could there even be when Soldier Boy and Stormfront just go on to hang out like normal for literal decades? I'm telling you, man, it's gonna feel unnecessary. If you were truly passionate like you say you are, then you wouldn't have filler arcs, you wouldn't bend reality to force a plot point, you wouldn't start thinking of multi-seasonal setups in season 4 of your show, and you wouldn't cater to fans as hard as you've been doing. You know it's bad when Anthony Starr had to tell Kripke in season 4 that Homelander and Trump are just objectively different people. On one hand, these writers get defensive and say, this is a satire with big dicks and super cum. Don't take this show seriously, just have fun. But then there are plenty of moments where they are wanting you to take it seriously with no satire involved. So which is it? Are you dismissing criticism based on the quirkiness of your show, or are you using it as a shield to not fix your show? This once was a show that defied a mainstream organization like Marvel into becoming Marvel's weird uncle who forces bad words into conversation to show their nephew how cool they are. This story was genuinely badass in the first season because of the Seven being actually competent instead of entitled strawman idiots, and the boys themselves were the symbol to all soups. No matter who you are, no matter how powerful, how rich, how famous, the wheel will always turn. You could physically feel they were true justice. They were the fucking Grim Reaper. Now, I don't even have feelings for when they die because the people they once were are long gone. This show to me is the face of the first season problem, except Kripke didn't know how much talent and potential this show even had. He describes The Boys as his fun little genitalia show. Meanwhile, we saw it as an anti-conglomerate revenge story with global and personal stakes. Kripke truly is in a bubble, and I wish he popped it before it was too late.